Thank you, Kirk. My name is Mike Schmidt. I'm a former chairman of First Night Morris County. I actually attended the event as a young man with my family and performed at the event about 20 years ago. So I've a long history with the First Night Morris County organization. I've stayed involved recently as I've moved to Texas temporarily for work as a member of the advisory board for First Night Morris County. So it holds a special place in my heart, and I'm excited about the innovative arts summit that we're working through this day. So here you're participating and viewing the thought leadership segment, how the arts creates innovation and opportunity. Here with me today is Justin Kiczek, member of the Kirby Foundation, and I'll give him a chance to introduce himself. So Justin.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here with you all. Like Mike, I attended First Night Morris as a kid growing up in Morristown. And now I'm back in Morristown, both living and working here. And so I'm excited to sort of pass it on to my own children. A very special event for sure. And it's, I think, an event that really attests to what we're talking about here today, the way that arts can bring communities together and the way that arts can fuel innovation and opportunity and economic growth as well. So just to give a little background on myself, I'm the Executive Vice President at the Kirby Foundation. We are a family foundation that was endowed in 1931. And what's kind of neat about how that sort of fits with what we're talking about today is our founder, FM Kirby, Fred Morgan Kirby, was an entrepreneur and innovator of his time, having opened some what were then called 5 and 10 stores in Eastern Pennsylvania. He merged with the Woolworths, and I'm sure some of your audience, of course, might remember the Woolworth chain. And that really kind of, I think, helped create the wealth that allows us to have this incredible foundation today, supporting great grantees like First Night Morris. So our goal as a foundation is to invest in opportunities that foster self-reliance and to create strong and healthy communities. We do that through a number of ways. So among the different areas of interest of ours, we have arts, education, human services, medical research, public affairs, and the environment. And I think while I might reject the term thought leader, I think here, that is very honoring, but I feel a little too modest for that. But one thing I really appreciate and love about my job is it does, because we sort of support a wide span of organizations, both here in Morris County and in some other regions. I really don't have the opportunity to be an expert in any of these fields because there's just a lot going on. But it does afford me this great perspective, I think, and ways in which seeing how all of these different areas kind of help create that idea of a strong and healthy community. So that's my intro, and I'm really looking forward to talking more about this topic today.
That's great. No, thanks, Justin. I think for those of you who don't know, the FM Kirby Foundation has been an integral part of First Night Morris since its beginning, and I think that speaks volumes to the partnership we've had over these years and how we both see I think a very similar view of how the arts plays a significant role in the community, right? Not just in sharing the arts with everybody, but bringing people together and allowing people to experience another part of things they might not be exposed to in their daily lives, right? I mean, the one thing I've always appreciated about First Night Morris has been what it brings to you from a diversity of programming standpoint, right? Things that you may never pay $100 a ticket to go see, you can spend $25 and see that and many other things. So it's exciting, and I think our commitments and our motives and our missions kind of tie very closely together as organizations. So it's exciting. So without further ado, as Justin said in this thought leadership segment, I was hoping we could go through a couple questions with you today, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your thoughts, and feel free to share anything beyond what some of these questions are asking specifically. But first off, I want to ask you, how do the arts influence your area of expertise in terms of creating innovation and opportunity?
That's a great question. First of all, I do want to thank the team that helped create these questions. I understand that some students had a hand too in developing these awesome questions. So I love how you all are involving younger people in the development of this event too. But when it comes to the influence of arts on innovation opportunity, I mean, I think it's a difficult question to answer because I just believe that the arts, directly and indirectly, really influence kind of everything around us. I mean, when you think about the great innovators, I think of someone like Steve Jobs, who in his development of Apple products is obviously putting a premium on having really great hardware and technology that's intuitive and kind of user-friendly. But he also just was fixated on the idea of design and even the way something felt in your hand, the sort of artistry of it. And so when I think about someone like Steve Jobs, or when I think about the way in which even just kind of graphic design and marketing and advertising and in business really help, and all of those sort of principles of aesthetics, they kind of testify, I think, to the power that arts can have in innovation and in creating opportunity. But I think, maybe the best approach I can take here to your question, Mike, is just to think about really the ways in which arts and entrepreneurship come together. Or another way of thinking about this is arts and innovators. Because if you really think about it, it's fascinating how similar the skills are between artists and entrepreneurs. And let me just kind of take you through that a little bit. I mean, first of all, if you think about like where an artist starts from, right? Whether it be a child with a set of markers or, an expert sculptor kind of making his next great work. They start with that vision, right? It may just be kind of a glimmer of an idea, but they begin with the vision. And, that's entrepreneurship, right? That's innovation, is that those folks with the bold innovation, they have this, kind of half-baked in-code idea, but it's somewhere where they kind of launch out from. And then, of course, both the artist and entrepreneur they're soaking up other ideas and have a number of other influences. But in the end, they're both trying to create something that didn't exist in the world before. And I think that's why, as a society, we have such great admiration for both the artist and the innovator or the entrepreneur. Secondly, artists thrive off risk-taking, right? If you think about the great artists, they don't do what they're doing just because they're copying what everyone else does. The great artists thrive by doing something boldly and not having that fear of failure, right? Being really comfortable with the idea that what they're going to do might not land. And that's what the entrepreneur, that boldness of the entrepreneur is what kind of fueled such great innovation in this country and elsewhere. So, the entrepreneur, I wish I had the statistics ahead of me, but I'm sure there's some compelling data about how entrepreneurs have to fail a number of times in terms of what they're trying to do before they find that one success. So I think that's a lot like the artists. And then, artists have to prototype, right? They have to iterate. They have to kind of see the work of art as a work in progress. And I think entrepreneurs have a similar kind of humble approach to that too, where while there is that boldness of the design and execution of the vision, there's this realization that what I'm doing will not happen overnight. It's going to require many, many iterations. It's going to be in beta for a while, right? It's going to be prototype. And I need feedback. I need folks to kind of help me understand where it's not working yet. And I think that's very similar to the role of the artist. And finally, I think I'll add to this that in certain arts like theater, music, filmmaking, while in our popular imagination, we might think of the artist as sort of this lone genius, scribbling work in a candlelit corner. These are artists that they cannot see their work. They cannot bring their work to the public if it's not for just deep collaborative skills and the ability to, and socio-emotional intelligence, and just the ability to kind of work with others, create a sense of team, and kind of bring everyone on board to bring that final product to the world's light. And this reminds me of how entrepreneurship and innovation work as well, right? While we might have someone or a few people kind of beginning with that really bold idea, it ain't going to work if there's not a team behind it. And I mention all of this because a lot of the conversation today obviously is about STEM versus STEAM versus, what have you. And I don't see it as a zero-sum game. I really see it as that arts will kind of fuel STEM thinking, because a lot of that STEM thinking, the design thinking, is that prototyping and that deep listening and that envisioning. And I think that can kind of fuel arts too, because you do have some kids who, or people too, who think that they may be born with this natural talent and all they have to do is just kind of write something quickly and the world's going to celebrate it. That's not really how it works, right? Just like the entrepreneur, the artist, and people involved in the art have to realize that it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of humility and modesty. It takes a lot of listening to others. It takes a lot of failure. But once you kind of willing to commit to that, that's where the real magic happens. So that's how I think. That's how I think about your first question there about how do they influence, or how do they have a role in innovation opportunity.
No, that's terrific. Great perspective. How do you feel about the prevalence of that in your specific area and or in your geographical area?
Yeah, the prevalence of arts being tied to innovation.
Yep, and how, I guess, it's how well it's working in your eyes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I can try to answer that question in two different ways. When I think about my industry of philanthropy as a foundation, there are a number of amazing supporters of the arts in New Jersey. There's of course the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation. We're very involved in the arts. There's a number of other family foundations in the state who very much believe in supporting the arts. But there is a tendency in philanthropy to really want to have measurable outcomes and impact from what you're funding. And that obviously is challenging in the arts to sometimes when you're trying to help a small theater group or trying to help a museum get on its feet, or a performing arts center, a ballet company, what have you. We can talk about outputs. We can talk about how, they sold this many tickets or that many tickets, but it's hard to say like this many hearts were moved, or this many people felt more connected to their own humanity. And I think the funny thing about the arts is like, we don't go to it for, we as people, we don't go to it because there's some kind of demonstrable return on investment of our time. We go to it because it makes us laugh, it makes us cry, it makes us connect to one another. It makes us, again, I think, just kind of feel more connected to what it means to be human. So when you talk about prevalence in my industry, I wish there were more of it. I understand why folks may opt to make investments in fields where you can demonstrate that impact more, where you might be able to say like this many people, improve their health, or that many people no longer needed this government program. Right. But when it comes to the arts, I think that can be harder to measure. But I'll say this, I think we kind of all agree that when it comes to creating community, when it comes to creating a healthy, strong, sustainable community, we would all must want arts as to be a part of that, right? Yeah. So I think funders that are especially interested in developing particular regions or communities, there's a good reason arts is part of that, and it's that recognition. Yeah. When you mentioned, in our areas, I'm as someone who grew up in Morristown like you, I'm just incredibly proud of the way in which I think arts and economic opportunities in the town have kind of worked hand in hand. And all you have to do is look at organizations like the Mayo Performing Arts Center or Morris Museum, Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. I don't want to miss all of the other ones, but Morris Arts, and just see kind of how they've changed the face of this town. They've been a part of the town's economic health. And that's why I think, especially in times like now, where these partners are not able to have the crowds they once were, it demonstrates why I think foundation support, donor support is super important, because they can't rely on that earned income anymore. If we want them to continue to create innovation opportunity, then we've got to support them out of our own pockets.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think you brought up a few things that hit home there. Given my background in finance, I understand how we always try and tie events to their economic impact in a lot of ways, or try and measure the impact of events and programming and all these other things. And it's very difficult to do, especially in the arts space versus some other, very good causes out there that from a philanthropic, angle. But we measure it, as you said, in how people feel about it. And certainly there are economic components to it, but sometimes those can be challenging, especially when economic times are tough. Arts can be one of the first things to be cut. And that can
Absolutely.
be, actually exponentially damaging by going that route, right? So arts is the one thing you really need to get you through some tougher times. So I think it's really a nice way to look at it, right? You have to find other ways to measure the impact of these organizations and find out how it is having the impact, to see if you do have the proper innovation, because the communities that have the strong culture and the strong arts communities are the ones that do thrive and survive and draw more people and more vibrancy and are better in the end, right? So that's great perspective. Thank you. I had one more question for you today. I was curious how you would promote the arts as an effective way to create innovation and opportunities for someone who's not currently turning to arts to create these elements. You spoke about Morristown, you spoke about people and opportunities, but how would you promote the arts from that angle?
Sure. I think it involves a little bit of kind of coming back to the basics of what that person, that institution, that organization is trying to achieve, however they're trying to get at innovation opportunity. Because I think there's going to be a human story in there, right? I think there's going to be some kind of way in which that organization and trying to be innovative in whether it be, biotech or computer software, web design, whatever it may be. Whatever kind of innovation opportunity they're trying to create, I think there's a human story in there, and I think arts are the way in which to promote that human story and thus kind of promote that innovation. I think as a former English teacher, I think I will fix storytelling here as perhaps one of the most ancient arts that we have, and for anyone who's trying to kind of promote innovation opportunity, it's storytelling, I think, that help you do that. It's storytelling that I think helps you kind of articulate how that vision started, the human need that you're trying to fulfill, and the sort of connections that you're hoping to create between your clients, between your team, whatever it might be. So I think that's something that innovators, entrepreneurs, I should have mentioned this earlier as well, but also do extraordinarily well, is they tell their story. They have those sort of narrative skills. So even just kind of in the way in which arts help promote storytelling, I think that's a great example of how we can be more effective in developing innovation and opportunity.
Oh, that's terrific. That's great. No, thank you. I think those are some words for us to live by and definitely take away and think as we continue on the rest of our programming today. So thank you very much. And Justin, thank you very much for your time. And again, appreciate everything you and the FM Kirby Foundation do for First Night Morris County. I think it's a terrific partnership. We hope continues far in the future. So I'd like, in closing, just to say to everyone here, thank you for joining us for How the Arts creates innovation and opportunity. We look forward to your comments during our interactive discussion part of our program at 1:30 p.m. today. Now, let's transition over to Mike for a second panel, STEM, STEAM, and STEM arts. Which one is right for you? Mike?